giving me the setting up the meeting, done, redirecting. Okay, looks like we are live.
Yahoo.
Hello. Well, hello everyone. For those that might be finding,
Hi.
I need so well, hello everyone, and welcome to this first PsychCraft Network um live production, live meeting. So I'm Gordon Brewer. I am the owner and the person behind um, the Practice of Therapy podcast. I also have a private practice called Kingsport Counseling Associates. And this is a group of people that we have been meeting and being working together through the PsychCraft network for a little over a year or two now. And so I'm just going to let everyone introduce themselves, and we'll go from there. Steve, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell folks about yourself and who you are?
Thank you first and foremost, Gordon. Appreciate it. And my name is Steve Biso. I have a podcast called Finding Your Way, Resilience Development in Action. Right now, will be fully transformed to Resilience Development in Action starting April 16th. I'm in the PsychCraft Network, which is where I know Gordon and James and everyone else here. So appreciate you guys. I'm a mental health counselor in Massachusetts, worked with first responders for about 20 years. And I've worked in jails, I've worked at parole, probation, and I like to talk about trauma and grief as well as first responder stuff. So that's kind of what my podcast is all about. And it's also what I like to talk about mental health for those who are resisting mental health, because that's the best way to get the message across.
All right. Thanks, Steve. And yeah, you'll get to hear more from Steve here as well. Well, Janine, why don't you go next and tell folks about yourself? I think we froze up a little
Sure.
bit
I'm
there,
Janine
but
Hershkovitz. My podcast is called Autism Blueprint, and we focus on autism and neurodiversity in the home, and for parents and professionals to learn more. And I have a private practice in North Florida, which is Puzzle Piece Counseling in Jacksonville area. Yeah, so that's me.
no, awesome. And I've known Janine for quite a while now too. It's interesting how we've all connected over the years here. But James, why don't you go next? Tell the folks about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name's James Marland. I'm the host of the Scaling Therapy Practice, where I help therapists put their mission in motion by creating tools that make it easy for them to launch online educational products, coaching products, communities, and things like that. So I'm sort of I like tech. I like discovering new tools. And I like making things simple and easy, templates, because if I don't have a checklist or a template, I get distracted. So that I use that weakness as a superpower to help people get stuff done. Yeah, so that's what I do.
Awesome. Well, Daniel, tell folks about you. I think we've got a little bit of a delay for Daniel.
Nope, I'm back.
All right.
Sorry about that. Keeps freezing up on me, so I don't know when everyone's done talking. It's my turn?
Yes, your turn. Tell
Okay,
folks about you.
Yeah, so my name is Daniel Fava, and so I am the leader, CEO, whatever you want to call it, of Private Practice Elevation. And we are a website design and development / search engine optimization agency. So we help therapists really market their practice online, not only create beautiful functional websites, but also how do we get clients to the website via SEO, as well as we provide ongoing support for WordPress websites, stuff like that. And we also have a podcast called Private Practice Elevation. And my story really began with my wife. My wife is in private practice. I am not, so I am not a therapist. So I might be a little more of a fly on the wall in this conversation, but I'm going to be learning like everybody else. And yeah, and so I do get a lot of glimpses into the world of running a private practice, obviously via my wife and her group practice. So happy to be here. And thanks for
Awesome.
organizing this, Gordon.
Oh, well, yeah, thanks. Thank you guys for taking the time to do this. So, one of the things that we thought we'd maybe tackle in this first episode of this is just how mental health care is changing, and maybe a little bit about just mental health care in general. I think most of us have who have been in this field for a while have noticed a lot of shifts since COVID. And it's interesting how we mark time by COVID now, which is really an interesting phenomenon. It's going to be kind of like people in generations um, before us, kind of marking time during World War II and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, it's interesting how those things kind of mark time for us. But, one of the things that is I think a big shift is that people have become much more aware of telehealth and doing therapy and coaching and that sort of thing in kind of this format. So, yeah. So what do you guys notice about that as far as people's receptions to those kinds of things?
Yeah, I can speak to that if you'd like, Gordon.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
I've measured things also pre-COVID, post-COVID, because it just seems to be this mark in history where we did things a little differently before, and now we have the after. But I remember the during COVID thinking as a private practitioner, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know how we're going to keep this afloat. I don't know how we're going to be able to help people the way we're supposed to. And, remembering at the time as it was happening, we didn't really know what it was and what it was doing. And so I know for me, it was pretty easy transition because I had been doing some telehealth. Before that, I do some coaching for autism parents throughout the United States. So coaching being different from therapy, in that I'm not doing therapeutic. I wasn't doing therapeutic work online. I was just doing the coaching piece, helping parents, things like that, with behaviors and maybe how to set up their home, things like that. And then during COVID, I really got to go in with both feet, just kind of jump in and say, whatever we can do in the office, we can also do online. And just kind of getting more and more comfortable with that. I will say it was very strange, especially if you work with kids, as our office does, to have people, lifting up their cat or, showing us their dog or, but, or, their mom coming into the room to bring them lunch while we were online. It was a little odd.
Yeah.
But I think that, as therapists, we already had the skill set to be flexible and to kind
Yeah.
of meet people where they are. So, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be for me.
Right. Yeah. It is interesting from a therapist perspective how you kind of had a window into other people's worlds. I mean, literally just through a screen, and you got a little different perspective about what their lives were like. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, what?
Well,
Yeah,
let
go
me,
ahead, Steve. Hmm.
I was just gonna say, what I found interesting is, I was doing online counseling before it was cool, working for a company and all that. And I remember how many people accused me of being unethical doing so and telling me how wrong it is and everything else. And all these people who are calling me unethical when COVID started, doing Zoom, they suddenly all wanted my help, and being able to be flexible yourself was very important because of that. But I also, like, I never reminded those, not that I have a memory. My therapist says I don't let go of stuff, but anyway, all seven of them. Um, but at the end of the day, I think that changed a lot. but it also changed the rules. And I think that's something that, I want to bring up as a problem too, because, like I had clients when the first few Zoom sessions during COVID would like bring a beer or bring, like dress slightly inappropriately. Oh, it's okay. I'm going to the beach after this. That's great. I don't want to see your swimsuit. And I think that that brought a whole ethical standard that you had to recreate for some people. I didn't have that many issues, but like people sitting in their bathrobe and not wearing anything underneath. Believe me, I heard all the problems from different people. And so I think it created a whole new ethics with that we really like ultimately it would be nice if the NASW or the NBCC or whoever would kind of create those ethics written down somewhere because truly they're not there. They're all like every state, every company, every kind of like came up with their own idea. But to me, there's an ethical standards that like, do I mind if my client has a soda? Believe me, you've seen me already, and I always have water with me. That's fine. But having a beer, or bringing their vape on or smoking a cigar, and I'm like, now, even I feel a little weird, and I'm a pretty flexible guy. So I think that that's one of the things that's changed overall in mental health is where's the ethics, where's the boundaries, where's the lines in regards to all that.
Right. Well, another issue is that I was having difficulty with clients trying to drive while they were doing their session. And so that was just really distracting in that way. And then to just with the technology's gotten better, but just people cutting out and cutting in and all of that kind of thing. It's made a interesting. And what I'm finding in my practice is that even though I had people that did a lot of teletherapy or telehealth, what I'm finding is people really want that contact and are wanting to come into the office now. And so uh, to me, that's a positive. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely my experience, Gordon. And I was actually kind of surprised. I thought, many of my neurodivergent and autistic clients spend a lot of time online, and that tends to be where they're comfortable socializing. But a good majority of them weren't comfortable doing therapy online. They really couldn't wait to get back in person and face to face, because for them they wanted that contact. And so, what I learned in real time is that I can't really predict what my patients are going to want. It just depends on the person.
Hmm. Right. Right. Yeah. Well, James and Daniel, from your perspective, what have you all kind of noticed on the tech side and all of that? I know one big phenomenon that we were chatting a little bit about before we started was just the advent of AI and artificial intelligence and how that is changing things for a lot of people.
Before we get to that, I was wondering what I was hearing from my clients and people that we were talking is that with the advent of online sessions, if you have a good service, your cancellations go down, and then you see more people, or it's easier to fit people in over lunch or over breakfast or even the evening because you're not traveling as far either. And so then there's a little more tendency to blur your boundaries and then burn out a little bit. And that's what I had been hearing, that yeah, it's great, it's easier access, but that also means nobody's canceling, there's fewer in between sessions, you don't have those times to catch up on your notes, which leads to more burnout. Is that what you have also experienced or heard?
Yeah, I think a big game changer for at least from the therapist perspective with things is that it did make it more flexible for people. I think even now I've got clients that I live where I live and serve is a small metropolitan area surrounded by a large rural area. And I do have clients that will kind of mix up their sessions. Sometimes they'll come into the office, other times we'll just meet by, by telehealth. Just depending on their situation because it is a time commitment, particularly for those living out. I mean, they've got to some of them drive an hour to get to my office and then drive back home. So that's
And-
3 hours they have to plan for just to do a
Yeah.
session.
And now maybe this might be a more of a question for Daniel, because when, 5-10 years ago, when you did marketing and SEO, you were competing for that 20-mile radius.
Mhm.
And now with online sessions, you're competing sometimes with the bigger cities, but also the bigger companies, because now your little SEO, my town, my practice, the specialty I do doesn't cut it anymore, because the people with money are pushing
Mhm.
into that. So that is probably a big change with the telehealth. What you're saying, yes. What do you got to say about that?
Yeah, that's really what comes to mind when I think from my perspective, kind of from the outside looking in, and with our clients and the marketing that we do, is like, yeah, it was like, oh, this is great. We can be so flexible. But now you've gone from a competition of, like you said, that sort of, radius of where my office might be, to now the entire state and sometimes multiple states. And kind of the nature of how Google works is they're trying to get the best answer for, the questions and the searches that people are searching for. So if there's a website that's been established just for, years and years and has great content, and the person doing the search is close to where that like person has already been established, then Google's going to favor that. So it was this double-edged sword of like, yes, you can reach so many more people, but to do that is going to take a lot longer. And I think kind of what I've seen as the sort of projection, or kind of how things went, was, obviously everyone freaked out first for COVID, and then mental health became really, everybody was like, oh, I don't really have to work too hard to market, because just people were coming out of the woodworks, and everybody was going through this collective trauma, for a lack of a better word, so to speak. And so people are jumping on board with therapy. But now I think we're seeing some of that dust kind of settle now. And now I'm hearing more in the consultations I'm doing of, I didn't really need to market for a while. Now all of a sudden it's starting to get really slow, and I think that that's kind of that. Now we've landed in this place where the competition is so much greater, that if you haven't been really taking the long game in your marketing and, creating content and helpful resources for those potential clients, now everyone's trying to catch up a bit.
Yeah.
I got a few comments here, if you don't mind, Gordon, or
Yeah, go ahead.
I go back to a couple of things. You talked about changing the game with online. One of the best things that happens now is if I have a client who forgot their session, I text them after 15 minutes and say, hey, everything okay? Because again, long story, but one day I said, where are you? And the person was no longer of this world. So that was kind of cruel. So now I ask if they're okay. I changed that way of doing that. Number two, they're like, oh shoot, I forgot. Can we jump on? Now suddenly you went from a face-to-face to online. You didn't lose your client. You have a better show rate and so on and so forth. So that's a good game changer in that way. So I want to mention that because that's what I find very helpful doing online nowadays. When you talk about the SEO and the long term and the marketing, I think that the problem has happened with therapists, which I run a class, a small little class about how to start your own private practice. And most people are like, oh, well, I'm just going to do online, or I'm going to stop my marketing on Psychology Today, or uh, what's it called? Zenden. I can't remember.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different ones. And I caution everyone, I'm like, you need to be able to keep that going. You may not need clients today, but you may need clients in next week, next month, next year. If your clients move on, that's life. And I think that what we saw as a phenomenon is that therapists almost fell in an all or nothing. I see a lot of people who went, oh, I'm just going to do online because that's really helpful. But now they're seeing their revenue decrease because I would say that, again, I work with a first responder world where they're more like 85-15 showing up face to face versus online. But I think that the general population is a 50-50 split. Some people like online, some people don't. And so you need to be able to consider both. And I always tell people, like, if you stop having an office, there's a challenge there. So you talk about the SEO, keeping the marketing going. I also think that the all or nothing thinking plays a factor. I love working with first responders. Do you think I have 100% first responders? Of course not, because with all due respect to that crowd, that would burn me out.
Mhm.
So you got to find a
Sure.
balance and find a balance. And I think of what in the mental health world has changed is I think some therapists have fallen, unfortunately, in the bad thought process of all or nothing thinking. And I think that that's also a place where needs to be changed because it's not all online, it's not all face to face, it's not all group, and it's not all insurance, and it's not all coaching, which we talked about pre-interview. It's about a balance of everything else. And I know I sound like a Zen person when I say that. My Buddhist background really helps. But believe me, you guys know me, so you're all smiling because you're like, I hate that Zen. And you're right, I'm not that Zen. But the point is that that's where I really feel we need to fall in these thought process. And that's why some people have lost their SEO, they've lost their marketing, and they've lost also because they went either all online or all face to face. You can't be in a world where you're all or nothing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, another phenomenon that has happened in recent years are what we like to refer to as big tech companies coming in and kind of taking not control, but really kind of driving a lot of what happens. Things like BetterHelp and uh, 4 cups of whatever it is, something cups of teas or uh,
Talk
talk
space.
talk space. Yeah, those kinds of things with the public might be familiar with, but one of the things that they're not going to get from those different platforms is the face to face. That's all done online, and um, yeah, and so it's going to be interesting to see how all of that. And then there's another phenomenon with some of those tech companies is a concern about the ethics of that because um, we're not really sure what information gets shared about people.
Mhm.
And so that's been a concern for some of us. And, I might be, some people might consider me an old fart and just kind of thinking a traditional kind of way of thinking about therapy. But one of the things for us therapists is that's really paramount to any therapeutic work is the maintaining confidentiality for people. And so when you've got the tech world coming in and just the sharing of information and all of that sort of thing, it's beginning to be a little bit sticky. And even like with one of the things that's happened for therapists, which has been a great tool, um, and it's been touted as being HIPAA secure and all of those kinds of things. But being able to generate your session notes using AI, and it's a big game changer. It's a big time saver for those of us that are doing therapy. And for people that might not be familiar, yeah, for therapists, we not only do the session and what you hear with us talking during the session, but we also have to document all of that. And then if there's insurance is involved, we have to bill for the insurance, make insurance claims and all of those kinds of things. So it's more than just having a conversation with a therapist. So, yeah.
Do you think AI notes lead to better outcomes? Or is it just like for the client? Like how does that help
hmm
with their treatment? Um,
That's a great question.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I can chime in really quickly with a quick answer.
hmm
I don't think taking my notes or getting AI to do the notes is really the key to a good therapeutic alliance, is really the
mhm.
relationship with the client. So for me, while we can talk about the pros and cons, I find it that I'm more relaxed and I do use AI for my notes. I'm more relaxed and able to pay attention significantly better than
Mm.
if I once in a while I'm like, oh, that's important now while I'm writing, no
Mm,
matter how multitasking you think you are. You're not
hmm
multitasking, you're not paying attention to what's being said, and you may
Right.
lose that. I'm no longer wasting time with this, so to speak, and I'm able to pay better attention. So for me, it's an opinion that it probably is helpful to have AI, but ultimately, what really works for anyone is your therapeutic relationship. I have a closer relationship with James. I've worked with James a few times now. We get along. That makes it better than if I work with Jane Doe that I don't know, who I've not worked with. And it's not an attack on Jane Doe. It's just what it is. It's familiarity. So for me, I don't think AI or writing our own notes is a better outcome. It really is about the therapeutic alliance and relationship.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's really fascinating stuff. And I know there's just a whole lot that has changed in just the therapy world for people. Um, I think people are much more aware of mental health being a legitimate issue for people, but also I think there is, kind of going full circle to how we started talking about COVID. I think one of the things that happened, uh, maybe a silver lining of COVID is that it gave people to permission to talk about mental health.
Mhm.
In that everybody was feeling the stress and the anxiety of that, and really being affected by having to be isolated from others, and um, the lack of social contact and all of those kinds of things. I think took its toll. I'm wondering if there's going to be a new term that comes out called post-traumatic COVID syndrome or something like that, just by virtue of how it affected so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I know this is just this is an experiment here with us doing this YouTube live with the PsychCraft network. We're going to see how this develops and where it goes. And I think for those of us here, we just said, okay, we just got to do it. And so we're just maybe it's not a good analogy, pulling the trigger, but um, we're going to try to do this on a more regular basis. And all of us have podcasts. And if you'll go to just the go to psychcraftnetwork.com, you can find us all there and find out more about our different topics for podcasting. I think that's another phenomenon that has happened after COVID. More and more people were listening to podcasts, and so I think it's a wonderful media, and that there's a sense of, at least for me, a sense of intimacy to it. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and even though I know I'm listening in my rational brain, I know that I'm listening to a recording. There's still something feels almost like I'm having a conversation with someone. So in that sense, I think a lot of people are drawn to podcasting in that way. Would any of you others like to say anything about that?
I always love like just the people I get to meet via podcasting. And that's really kind of the best part of it. And then it does create this connection, like you said, Gordon. Even, for me as a host too, I always have such better conversations when I get onto like a consultation and someone's like, I've been listening to your podcast and I feel like I know you, I know your voice, and it creates, yeah, for me, I enjoy that the most because it takes away this sort of in for me it's marketing, it's a business, and so there could be this sense of like being salesy or whatever, and like I don't want that. I just want to have a conversation. I want to find the best solution for you and for your marketing, and so it's always great when someone's been listening to my podcast and we can talk about that. It's like we start off as friends, which is just fun to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's true. I made so many great relationships through podcasting and those having those conversations. Yeah.
Mhm.
Is this background too much? I just changed the background. I was like,
Well, it looks like something's on fire
yeah,
behind
there's a little bit of smoke.
you.
I was messing around with this program called Prism Lens, and it is pretty cool. You can change your background like on the fly in a different program. So, anyways, I thought I made the smoke one. So
Okay.
if I flip it upside down, it looks like a cloud coming down. But
Okay.
anyway, maybe next time we do this, I'll have something
Yeah,
better.
we'll just all randomly change our backgrounds as we go through that, just to confuse
We
people.
can vote on the best background.
Vote on the
Yeah.
best background. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, podcasting allows me to have cool conversations with neat people. Like I'm a learner and a teacher at heart. And so when I bump into people who have either a cool story or they've been on the journey that I want to go on, or they are a little bit like they're just starting their coaching side of things, I like to interview them and learn their process, because a lot of times most of us have to take that leap of faith. These are a lot of what do you call it, tropes, but take that leap of faith, get out of your comfort zone, believe in yourself, all those things. But it's all the same experience for anyone who's like trying something new and just working at it. And so I love to hear those stories, because I'm hearing stories of people who are inspiring to me, and also they encourage me, and I hope they encourage other people who might be in the same situation, like, oh, they did it, I can do it too. They had challenges, I have challenges. In fact, they had massive challenges, and my challenges seem almost like half of what they are. I think I could do it too. So kind of give you that motivation to do. And I just love to help people, give people the tools. In a month, I'm going to be talking with Daniel. Daniel's going to be doing a webinar on SEO. So that's going to be awesome. And also 2 or 3 weeks from now, I'm doing a 5-day challenge, like create your course idea and make a plan to put it in action. So just a simple, massive value, short 5-day challenge to just start thinking about, what could I do for coaching? What could I do to add a course, or maybe do some passive income type activities for your business. It's really exciting. It's an exciting time. And podcasting's a big part of it, because it just keeps giving me more conversations and people with great ideas. And also I like to add the value. Like everybody starts from zero, everybody starts from the beginning. And if you can be inspired, maybe you will take some action. So that's what I help people do, put their mission in motion.
Awesome. Well, I think this might be a good time for us to end, and we will stay tuned, folks, for some more PsychCraft Network lives, and hopefully this will be a great place for you to get some good information, but also a little bit of entertainment. Not that we're all that entertaining, but at least get some good knowledge from all of these great people. So take care, folks.
Thanks, Gordon. Bye.
Thanks.
See.